So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this afternoon session, CAA's Executive Symposium. This is our 16th year, I can't believe it. I am George DeMarco, Chairman of ESX and Managing Partner for Deco Ventures. I'll be your moderator today. So our purpose here focuses on sharing ideas and concepts that help electronic security and life safety professionals get a fresh perspective on the industry as it evolves. Each year, we highlight industry trends that may be caused by disruptive technologies or unique go-to-market strategies that challenge the status quo, and ask thoughtful questions about possibility, change, and adaptability. Our goal is to share trends and challenges for you to consider, and hopefully, you'll see a few opportunities fall in between. Industry experts sometimes are blind to new ideas and mega trends, including me. And that is why we must always challenge our traditional thinking and redefine and redetermine the business that we are in, and learn the new rules that will determine the future of business and of the industry. Does this look familiar to you? Anybody? No matter where we are, devices are connected to every part of our lives, whether at home, work, or play. Maybe it's just a delivery system that has changed. Access to content today is much faster, more powerful, and more convenient, but it's very similar. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Maybe it should be a picture is worth 1,000 questions instead. Does your company know where it's going? Does your company know where it's, will you be able to navigate the future? Is it traveling at the right speed and at the right direction? Will your employees understand what to do when the economic climate changes dramatically, one way or the other? Are you passing up your competition, or is the competition passing you up? I'm sure you can think of many more questions, but seeking the right answers will be priceless. And as for the IoT solutions that are for homes, vehicles, and businesses that are flooding the marketplace, so does the complexity as manufacturers and service providers struggle to make a thoughtful, seamless, enjoyable customer experience. Here is Deep Sentinel. The CEO attended ESX in Fort Worth with the intention of partnering with the industry. After meeting traditional players, he elected to own every customer touch point. They built the camera, wrote the CRM, and they even wrote the monitoring software. Here's a video on their product and their service promise. Oh. And it looks like Jeff Bezos is placing more bets around the industry besides Ring. He's the lead investor for this product offering, much different offering than Ring. Anyone feeling like either of these two guys lately? As I go around the country, sometimes I see people that either don't accept what's happening or they're a little bit frightened. And it's maybe because of this gentleman. I remember, I think it was the beginning of this week, when Amazon announced that they were thinking of getting into shipping, and a couple of stocks, FedEx and UPS, their stocks dropped a little bit during that time period. And of course, Google has been eyeing the sector for some time with their products and services too. For consumers, is good enough good enough? This may be our greatest battlefront yet, how to combat good enough. Although Amazon and Google are approaching the market differently, they both want the data that comes from the home. Does this mean that Tim is throwing up his hands and not participating? Probably not. A little late to the party, but we'll see what develops. And does this mean Facebook is washing his hands of it? Probably not, especially since recently bringing to market Portal, its communications device for the home. And we now have some insurance companies sniffing around the fringes of the industry. Here's Travelers all set to sell smart connected devices that they believe will help mitigate their losses and keep their customers closer to them. And as most of you know, AAA dove right into the industry with the purchase of Safe Security. Will other insurance companies follow suit? And does this mean industry associations will need to expand their membership definitions to accommodate these new entrants? So to help us better understand the opportunities and challenges in the industry, it's with great pleasure to introduce our guest speakers and have them join me on the stage. Please welcome Adam Dunham, National Purchasing Director for the largest home builder in the United States, D.R. Horton. We have Michael O'Neill, President of Nortek Security and Control, and Jeffrey Perri, Co-founder and President of ProData Key. Please join me up on the stage. So as they're coming up here, each one of the speakers is going to share a little bit of their wisdom and vision for the future. And then I'm going to pose a few questions for them, but I'm going to ask the audience, we want audience participation on this. With that, I'm going to ask each presenter to step forward, and they're going to start off with a little bit of their bio, their business experience, a little bit of what their brand is, and they're going to give us a little bit glimpse of the future of the industry. So let's welcome Adam from D.R. Horton.
Thank you all for having me here. I'm excited to be in San Fran. It's a little bit nicer than Fort Worth is currently right now. I'll just jump right in. Oh, I need a new headshot. That much is clear. So D.R. Horton, we are the largest home builder for 17 years now, even after the Lennar-Cal Atlantic recent merger. If you hear otherwise, that's fake news. We are in 30 states. We've had 2 additional acquisitions within the past 30 days. We now are in Indianapolis and Ohio as well, Indianapolis and Iowa as well with 2 of these recent 30 days. Just the typical slide we have to give here. Last year, 51,857 homes. Projections for this coming year for us is going to be around 60,000, so still projecting to hit our growth goals in that regard. $16 billion in revenues. Pre-tax income 2.1, that's common stuff there, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. We have to put this slide up. DR doesn't let us do a presentation unless we do still show here that yes, by closings, we are still #1 home builder 17 years in a row, and that's a big deal for us. Very proud of that fact. Home is connected, so even as big as we are and the potential headwinds that come with a company of our size and resistant to change, and be that what it may, we now have a smart home solution for the entirety of our product offering. We do build multiple brands. That's Express, Horton, Emerald is our structure to that. And every single one of our homes from this point forward, as of middle point of this year or so, does actually get this Home is Connected package for us. Regardless state, price point, doesn't matter, every single house. The parts to this, just to run through those real quick, we do have the Qualys IQ2 panel, which kind of serves as the hardware hub for the home. That's a good device. Honeywell T6 Z-Wave thermostat, Quickset 888 deadbolt, the Cooper Eaton Z-Wave light switch. We do give an Echo and a Dot as well to each of those homeowners. And we have the Alarm.com is our partner for the software side of things and the tie-in. So the intent behind this for us is that we have the in-home panel for control of that regard, voice control, and of course the Alarm.com app for that telephone experience, because all of us are going to use our homes a little bit differently, and all of our family members are going to use our homes a little bit differently. So we wanted to make sure that we had those 3 main vehicles of doing so for them. The parts side of this, as we were going through creating this package over the past 2-3 years, it feels, and kind of trying to really streamline what we wanted to do. The part side of it, truthfully, came pretty easy. There's no surprises here on all the statistical data that exists on what people really do want, all the touch points for their home. The part for us was really identifying that one app versus multi-app solution, what was the right answer there, and then the labor side. It's always labor in home building. Every single challenge we face is usually labor related. So the beautiful part of this package for us is that all of these devices are already there. We're just replacing them with something different. The only additional thing that we do on our homes to provide this package is one wire for that Qualsys panel, because we choose to mount it to the wall to help it from walking off. So easier for our teams in the field to deal with, and easier for all of our integration partners as well. We provide the standard stuff that's already there, the thermostat, the door lock, the light switch. The integrators do provide the panel, the echo devices, and the doorbell whenever they come post-close. That's how that works for us. The deciding on the labor side, because some of our peers, I mean, for a company of our size and a lot of our competition have all kind of started finally really getting into this space. So I could say we're definitely over the adoption side of this, and we are definitely into where this has become expected for most of our buyers. We've heard it before we did this program. Since we've launched the program, we've heard nothing but success centered around that piece to it. The tricky part was who's going to put it in for us, and what was the right avenue for that, because obviously some of our competitors have chosen to go with those large guys, those large national brands. We ultimately chose not to. We do keep that local relationship, so our installing partners for us are all of our local market integrators, low voltage guys that were already doing that work. It results in us having 55 different discussions, 60 different discussions with each of those individuals, but it went very, very smoothly. We really do value those relationships that exist. They already know all of our superintendents, our processes, and more importantly, they give us the best face forward for our customers, we feel, in that service aspect of it, because that really is what it comes down to for us, is what's the best home buyer experience, both in products, and then what's the best home buying experience in terms of who's the team to give that to them. So that's it.
Great, thank you. Okay, now next up is going to be Mike O'Neill from Nortek. Please welcome Mike.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm the president of Nortek Security and Control. Nortek Security and Control is a company with a pretty wide range of products. I came to Nortek 8 years ago when the company was called Linear. Linear at that point was run largely by engineers. The Nortek process was to acquire complementary companies, most of them in the home products business, move their manufacturing out of the U.S. and into China. We have a factory in Shenzhen. The original factory was actually in Hong Kong, but we moved it into Shenzhen. Obviously, when we bought those companies, the objective was to lower the cost of manufacturing and generate a return on that. In the process of doing that, Nortek built a very, very strong manufacturing base, capable of manufacturing a very, very wide range of products. Those products both with high volume requirements and also low volume requirements. When I came to the company, that was the perspective of Nortek, and they decided to make a change. And the first thing that I had to do when I got to the company was refocus the company around our customers, which we've done for the last 8 years. The second thing we did is we started to acquire technology. The first acquisition we did was 2GIG. We were a partner with 2GIG and Vivint at that point regardless, since we built the panels for 2GIG and helped them engineer that product. We then moved, after acquiring 2GIG, we've acquired Numera, which is a mobile PERS-based company. The principal thing we were looking for in Numera was the software platform behind it, because there wasn't really at that point an interactive software platform that could be used to support mobile or stationary PERS. We've also acquired a natural language processing company, which, if you know what natural language processing is, it's the capability to talk to a product, not have to ask the product to talk to another product effectively. We can eliminate the awkwardness of the manner in which you talk to products through existing voice control capabilities. And then finally this year, we acquired Intellivision. Intellivision is one of a few video analytic companies. We have a very, very wide range of video-based and audio-based analytics. We own the analytics. We also have a license agreement with Avigilon, who is the, quite frankly, is the mammoth analytics provider, has a lot of IP. So at the end of the day, we picked up some protection against being challenged on the IP that we have relative to our analytics. So this week, I spent time in Atlanta with my owners. We were acquired 2 years ago by a British well, it's a private equity company that uses largely public money. So they're listed on the stock exchange. We don't get all the benefits of private ownership because they do operate on the exchange. So we still have some short-term bias in our company, which is never useful or helpful when you consider yourself a technology company, because obviously you're investing for the long term in your technologies, and short-term circumstances can negatively impact those investments. That being said, they asked me as soon as they acquired the company to integrate the various companies that were related in the home control space. So we have GDOs, we have gates, gate operators, telephone entry systems, commercial access control, security PERS, both mobile and stationary or home-based PERS. We also have Elan, which is a home control platform, Speakercraft, Proficient, Panamax, et cetera. So these companies have now been all combined into one entity called Nortek Security and Control, and what we're in the process of doing now is creating a common platform under which all of those will work. That has given us the opportunity to go to places like multi-unit housing developments and, quite frankly, put everything in. Garage door openers, telephone entry systems, gates, PERS, security, home control, audio video control, et cetera. And I think based on, quite frankly, what you heard from D.R. Horton, there is significant interest in the market today. It is one of the places that's growing for people to essentially drop all of this technology into a home or into a small business. I think what we're going to see, however, is that that's not going to be good enough because the bigger people that we will confront are going to figure out how to link those systems that are in a home or a small business into a community. And quite frankly, in our discussions more recently with people like Qualcomm, we're trying to figure out how to extend those relationships beyond just that home or even that community. And I think there will be an effort. We've talked to some home builders who are really looking at securing the entire community. And when they're thinking about securing the entire community, they're thinking about how things relate across the building and entities in that community. So one of the things that I told our new owners is that's a place where we're going to place a significant amount of effort. I think the second thing is, today there's a high degree of commoditization in our business, a huge focus on price, driven by perhaps the introduction of MSOs into our business or perhaps it's simply safe for any of the DIY guys. At the end of the day, I think what we collectively as an industry need to figure out how to do is to ensure that we create real value for the people who are paying for our services. And that extends well beyond the product, the back end, and the service. At the end of the day, we offer a whole chain of capability which needs to be married together in a way that creates real value. And whether we talk about, I like the video that you showed, George, because quite frankly, faster, more secure homes with less false alarms will have a substantially greater value to people than adding another widget or IoT device into somebody's home. Additionally, I think we need to recognize that the products we're putting into these homes are parts of networks. These homes are, quite frankly, mini networks. And the problem that people have in those homes is when those networks don't work. Like when my kid can't get onto the network on Sunday night when they have a test the following day, because if you've got kids that are in high school today, there are no more books. Everything is done on the web, so the web and the web operating is absolutely critical for my family. And when that breaks down, the question is, where do I call? And they're going to call the person who they trust most to address that issue, and that's the person that's going to own that home. Because at the end of the day, you can buy the widgets or IoT devices anywhere. What you can't do necessarily is buy the capability to make sure that that stuff works continually and properly all the time. So those dealers that have embraced that can ensure themselves that provided they provide that service in a high quality way, that they will ultimately own that home. Those who don't embrace that will be subject to, I think, challenges over time, because as we see from the larger players coming into the market, they're more than happy to disrupt the relationships that you have with your customers today. So in a nutshell, I think that we're seeing the future capability today of our systems extending well beyond the walls of the homes and businesses that we currently put equipment into, monitor, and serve. I think the devices will need to get substantially smarter and faster in order to create significantly more value, and that means that continuum of analytics that will help drive that is both at the edge and in the cloud, so that entire pipeline has to be considered in terms of adding that extra value that we need. And I think that if those things are in place, I think that this industry can prosper. I think if they're not in place, I think that some of the folks that were referenced earlier will figure out a way to create more and more disruption for us. And thank you for your time today.
Jeff, PDK, you're up.
All right. This is really exciting for me on a couple of facets. Number one, the first system that ProData Key ever, or the first place ProData Key was ever installed was a D.R. Horton property out of Salt Lake City, Utah. So I have a little bit of sentiment there. But more so is this is something that we really have a passion for is technology. When we talk about technology companies, what are some of the disruptors in the industry and where are we going? This is something that's very dear to our hearts. So I want to come through a couple of slides here to just tell you a little bit about who we are and where our thought pattern is. First of all, we're based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. Many of you know that as Silicon Slopes is renamed some of the world-class ski resorts there. So if you haven't had a chance to go take advantage of those, make sure you come out and look us up. But companies like Adobe, Domo, Vivint, Pluralsight, are all out of this. We know of the recent acquisition of Pluralsight and some of the talent that's out of Salt Lake City. So we're really excited to be able to take advantage of that. We're founded in 2011, roughly about 8 years in the market from a national perspective. And really try to position ourselves as a leader in the technology or a disruptor when it comes to the access control space, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But we've been recognized for the past 3 years as one of the fastest growing companies by Mountain West Capital Network, and that's been a really good feat for us. We're backed by a $4.5 billion organization. We're still privately held by myself, our CEO, and our CTO still privately hold the company, which is really nice from a decision perspective and movement from a technology standpoint. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the market trends that we've seen. When we started putting numbers, these are real numbers based on our projections of the cloud and where the cloud was going. And so if you notice the blue line, that's our hosted platform. If you notice the yellow line, that's more of an on-prem style solution. We really thought that there was just going to be this gradual change in the environment when it comes from an on-prem to a cloud-based solution. And these are the actual numbers of what we experienced. Without having the physical numbers there. You look at the hosted, the on-prem, and it really is a hockey stick. And the reason that we've noticed this and what we're receiving back from a lot of the integrators is that the end users are really moving the industry. They're the ones that are expecting this. And we look at this dichotomy between home automation and the commercial environment. And home automation, 7-10 years ago or so, you see companies like Control4 and Crestron, they're coming in with some real strong offerings in the automation realm. And we've always seen about a 5 to 10 year gap of some of that same type of technology coming to a commercial environment. So that's what we set out to do, is to really change the commercial environment and what was going to be expected. So when I sat at my home, at first I was able to use my remote to turn on a TV. I could then start to control my lighting from there, and then I could do some of these other things. And now, directly from my smartphone, I'm able to do pretty much everything. And we know that, we talked about this in the class yesterday, that 77% of Americans own a smartphone. So there's obviously some desire there to utilize that. And George shared a great clip. We're in our phone all the time. We check our phones 8 billion times a day. Not just the security industry, but America as a whole. We check them 8 billion times a day. About half of that, so 54% of those individuals, check their phone right before they go to bed. And about 46% of us, each one of us in there, check our phone again right when we wake up. And there's about 11 to 15% of individuals that wake up in the middle of the night and check their phone. So whether you're using the restroom or whatever it may be, and you pull out your phone and check it, we have to be making a movement towards this mobile-first perspective, and I'm going to talk about that for just a minute. So some of the competitive advantages about ProDataKey is we poised ourselves as a technology company. Of course, we're in the access control space, but really for us, it's when an individual approaches a door, how are they interacting with that door? And what thoughts and intents does an end user have when they want to go through that door? And that's really what drives a lot of our thought pattern when it comes to access control. Our technology is built from scratch, so we own all the hardware, the firmware, the software, and that's a motivator for us. It allows us to really pivot the industry. And then we have a lot of flexibility, and we try to offer that flexibility not just to you as the integrator, but also to the end user from a network perspective, a PoE perspective. We were one of the first access control companies to deliver an 1.5 amp at the door with PoE Plus from a door controller perspective. And then we've got a wireless technology that's really impressive as well, up to a mile line of sight, 450-foot average indoors. So talking about the platform, again, for us, it was all about this mobile-first experience. Because I expect this at my home, we wanted to close that gap on this change or this dichotomy between your home and your commercial environment. So now when I come into my office, I can get the same feel and the same look that I have at my home. When I'm at my home, I can set a full video scene. When I come to the office, when I unlock my door, here are the types of things. So really for us, it's not just about the mobile first, even though that's what drives us. And then we push all of that same technology to an experience from a computer or a laptop perspective. But it's also all about integrations. How do we integrate with the platforms that make the most sense for the industry? We see Bluetooth credentials and this whole Bluetooth movement. What does that mean? When I approach a door and I've got a phone in my pocket, I'm walking down a hallway, do I want all those doors opening at the same time? No. What is the intent that needs to happen there as I approach a door that I want to get into? If I'm on the inside of the door, we all know that Bluetooth has up to a 30, 40-foot range or more. If I'm on the inside of a door and somebody has intent to open that door, do they have the ability or the opportunity to open that door? Also, we see this movement about credentials and issuing credentials. Should a Bluetooth credential cost money to you as an integrator to issue to somebody? Do I have to go and buy credentials and then take those credentials and issue those to my user, or can I do that right from the interface? I have a phone, you want a Bluetooth credential, and I just put your email address in, and boom, you get a Bluetooth credential instantly. So for us, it's not just about this mobile experience, but it's all about this immersive experience between the integrations, you as the integrator, and the end user. And that's what I love about access control. Is it takes out that it is an IoT device, and we're seeing that, but it still becomes a very protective platform for you as the integrator. We're not going to see as much of the end users getting involved in that, even though we see this change with the IT directors getting involved. They're the ones making the decisions, but they're not going to be out there cutting in a strike and doing those types of things. And so we try to be protective that way. And then real-time updates. For us, it's, when I click this button on my phone, what do I want to happen? Well, I want the door to open. Do I want it to open in 10 seconds or 3 seconds or 4 seconds? No, I want it to happen immediately. And then I want that response to come back to really show what happened at the door. So again, mobile experience is what it is for us, is really the direction for us. And I want to show you this video real quick.
Cloud-based breakfast doesn't work, but cloud-based access control does. PDK.io makes access control management simple. You'll wish everything was cloud-based.
I didn't realize I had so much bass to it until I play it here. But just in closing, a couple other points that I wanted to make is, for the most part, we thought, okay, well, do you get into door entry? Do you get into the Bluetooth credentials, and do you get into the Bluetooth reader? Do you get into some of these other software platforms, lock sets? What do you get into that can help move the business? And what we decided was the most beneficial was to just create a very easy platform to integrate with. So it's all about this integration. If you're wanting to utilize XYZ platform as a door entry solution or whatever it may be, to be able to integrate into that platform so that you have the ability to use the technologies that are most fit for your organization. We're integrated into ASA Abloy as far as the lock sets are concerned, 16-to-1 hub. You can put a wireless locks. We've got systems out there with thousands of doors connected on the ASA Abloy Apereo platform, and that's important to us as well. So when you go and install one of those lock sets, it's a faster, easier installation, and then that looks like another door controller on your system, but you still get to take advantage of this real-time configuration. Another thing that we hear in the industry is cybersecurity, right? And we see that from the Microsofts of the world and the Apples of the world, and you see that there can be some issues there. And so for us, we developed our platform in a three-tiered platform. The first portion of the platform that we spent several years on was the security side of the platform to make this a very secure and also very plug-and-play experience. When I plug in the system, boom, you instantly can control it from your phone. And so it's all built from an outbound perspective. Cybersecurity is number one. The second thing that we did for the integration perspective was we built our API. And our API sits on top of our own security layer. So anybody that's taking advantage of our API needs to integrate through that security layer. And then our end user and dealer experience, the UI UX experience, is all built on top of our own API. So anybody that integrates into our system, or if we choose to integrate into another platform, they have all the same functionality. So to sum this up, really for us, it's all about the security of a cloud-based platform, generating and building a great RMR platform for each one of you that's really cost-effective and easy to use, and then delivering what end users expect most is this whole mobile-first immersive experience with real-time functionality that really can change the industry. And again, closing that gap on the differences between the residential and the commercial market when it comes to technology.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm here. Can you hear me now? Okay, great. I'm going to start with Mike first because he is as broad across our industry as any of the other companies, because you offer so many different products and services and whatnot. We're going to break it down commercial and residential, but let's start with residential. What is the biggest growth opportunity that you've seen in the last couple of years, and where are you going to be placing your bets in the future? Where will you be placing your bets in the future?
The largest bet will be reconfiguring every product we have to be smarter using analytics. And that's the principal reason we've acquired. Each one of the technology companies we acquired brings analytic capabilities to it. Numera, it was on the PERS side, so fall detection, which in this case is both cloud-based and edge-based. Certainly in television with both sound and with video analytics. I think one thing we'll see that many of the older technologies we use to sense what's going on to a home will be replaced by, quite frankly, very different ways to do the same thing. Whether it's cameras, and verification will be easier because we'll be able to put multiple sensors in a sensor, check not only video, but check sound, and check other means to essentially validate that there's an event and send that off to the monitoring center. I think fundamentally that's the most significant thing that we're focused on right now.
And how does that translate into the commercial market for you guys?
Well, many of the same, on the edge, many of the same devices are used both in a commercial setting and as they're used in a residential setting. So I think what we will see is that those technologies will transfer between both settings inside, obviously inside our business.
And can you give some clarity on what you see, your company sees as 5G? 5G's coming. We're trying to get through 3G, right, sunset, and all of a sudden 4G, and now they're talking about 5G. Is that just making you crazy?
Well, we spent some time with not only Qualcomm, but with Verizon and AT&T, and I'm not sure why people are focused on 5G at this point. LTE, whether it's the existing Cat, whatever flavor you're using, whether it's Machine or Cat 1, or, those technologies are going to extend out at least 10, 14 years. Essentially, they told us that 5G is nothing more than a richer technology built on the same LTE platform. So at the end of the day, we're not going to be going through what we've gone through from 2G to 3G to LTE. Longer term, the technology will be much more comparable. And for most of our applications, 5G won't be necessary. As a matter of fact, we can probably move down on a number of our applications today. Most of the LTE radios out there are either Cat 3 or we're now using Cat 1, but when we get to the Cat, to the machine learning capabilities for many of our applications, that'll be good enough.
Okay, I'm going to turn to Adam over here to talk about the builder market. So you're building homes, and they're getting smarter, right?
Yep.
So tell me what are customers wanting in their homes, and what do they want from what we do? So tell us what they really want in their homes, and then tell us what they want from our perspective, if you could.
Yep. They want it all, truthfully. They don't want to pay for any of it. That's the rule number one. Usually, I mean, most of our actual options and tracked upgrades are still always solid surfaces and flooring, right? That's the first place that people upgrade is countertops, floors. The most common theme behind them really is because that's what they can show their friends and family. So anybody that sells anything that's hidden behind the wall, you got an uphill battle there to get that preached across to them. That's in the general side of it, not related to technology driven. Technology driven, a lot of them are still apprehensive. I mean, you get those buyers that understand it right away, of course, but there's still a lot of apprehension. So I would say that most of them really want to have technology, but really just want it to work seamlessly, easily. Right out of the gate, which is kind of a focus for us as well. Cameras are becoming a little bit more commonplace. Not so much in the house, still a lot of trepidation for some buyers on in-home cameras, but definitely on the perimeter of it and taking a little bit more of a direct knowledge and control of that security aspect. But beyond that, it really is environmental control and point of access. Point of access and being able to know when the kids are coming in and out, it's a big one. Taking pictures of them whenever they disarm or whatnot is always helpful to see who's in the house with them potentially, things like that, but yeah.
So I want to take it a little bit further. You're selling houses to millennials, right?
Yep.
Is there a different buyer mentality for the millennial versus us older guys?
Inevitably, yes,
Okay.
there is.
So what do you see they're focusing on? The same thing?
Well, different. So we have a brand called Freedom, which is for our age in place, a lock and leave type of a concept. Within that one, we do have some specifically tailored packages because sometimes that's for people that are caring for ailing parents and things like that, which does have additional things like bed sensors or whatnot and additional panic button type scenarios for them. But for the general millennial, they already grew up with this stuff. They already know this stuff. They understand it inside and out. It really is just about post-close scalability for them. What will I be able to add into this thing and still be part of my single function that we're trying to provide? Folks that are that second, third time buyer in our Emerald line and our higher end of our Horton side, the only ones that we provide any actual pushback on are still the echo devices, the tech phobia around, I don't want the government listening to me, that typical stuff. That does exist. It does. There's a certain percentage of people there that don't want that component to their lives. But really, I'd say that I've been pleasantly surprised. And we have about 3 months now worth or so of closings to really pull data from. But for me, whenever we did our onboarding process, it was actually the biggest indicator was our sales agents, right? Because we have a wide gamut of sales agents from 20 years to 60, 70 years or so. And as we did that rollout across all the different regions and just those different cultural differences or whatnot, let alone generational, and the older sales agents were really geeked up and excited about it. This is the fun stuff to talk to, but a lot of them really took to it like duck to water, and it was not much of a learning curve for them, which is always real good to see.
Yeah, Mike, I'd like you to comment on that too from your perspective about the builder market, because you said you are a little bit in the builder market, meaning that you supply them. Do you see anything interesting out there?
Yeah, when we combined the businesses, the home control business was pretty active in the builders market. We weren't as a security company so much, mainly because the historical home builders were using wired systems, and we're principally a wireless company. But all of that has kind of changed, and I see a lot of movement, including in your company, where now we're using wireless, and regardless of whether we have a wire or not attached to it, wireless has become more prevalent, and that's opened up significantly more possibilities for, quite frankly, all of us in the business to grow our capabilities in the builder market.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about connectivity, and you were funny because I think at my house when the broadband connection goes down, it's called Armageddon. Nobody can do anything. It drives them crazy, and our cell phone goes down too. Everything goes down. Anyway, with that being said, What are builders doing to bring that connectivity into neighborhoods? Because it seems like there's more and more bandwidth that's needed, not just for the house, but for the community itself.
That's a definite place where we need improvement, and a lot of that is attributed still to our land positioning and how we buy lots, and whether we're buying finished lots already from another developer. So you have to have several layers of conversation there. It's easier, of course, whenever we're developing our own dirt to have that internal infrastructure.
Yeah.
But when we're buying finished lots from them, we're having to rely on finding those 2 or 3 key partners in there to have that discussion for us when we're just buying that finished land. So I would say that we're not doing a very good job of that beyond just the home side of it as a community, and that is definitely one that we need to work on.
So I'm still going to ask another builder question here. So there's a lot of people out there that I think do work for builders. What does it take to do work for a builder today, from your perspective, from your company, and give them an idea what it takes?
Yeah. First and foremost, specifically for us, we're on the Alarm.com platform. You have to be an Alarm.com authorized dealer. That's the easy part, right? Check that box, move on. After that, it does require a little bit of a difference. We did this with 55, 60 plus different vendors, like I spoke about in my little 10-minute spiel there. It takes a understanding of the realignment of that sliding cost scenario, right? That upfront expense versus that absorption rate, rebate versus that actual monitoring rate, because we actually care about that part of it too. We do want to have that expense to us subsidized as much as possible, of course, to help with that adoption side, understanding that what does that absorption take rate really need to be for it to be long-term sustainable versus rebate for whenever we do get adoptions back to us to help with that math equation. But then also we've given up in certain areas where we just had a particular partner that we felt was kind of pricing the monthly rate a little bit too high for that homeowner. We gave up one part of our sliding scale to make sure that we kept that as a real sustainable thing for that homeowner, because it's great to give them all these beautiful things, but if we then turned around and tried to hit them with $90 a month monitoring charge, it was, okay, that's probably not the best experience for us overall. Beyond that, it really is, once you get that part of it, the math equation figured out or whatnot, it is servicing that local business. It's not, it really is just as simple as that. If you can maintain that with the superintendents, keep the superintendents happy, keep our homeowners ultimately happy, and have the right people that are the face of your company. If you got a guy coming in that's using a bunch of swear words and, you know, is not very professional in appearance or whatnot, that's not good for us. You are going to be that last face for our company for most of those home buyers. So that's an important piece to that. Even though it is a separate company, we want that to happen so that they call you when their internet goes down or whatnot, and don't call us because we want to build houses. But it definitely still is attached and brought through the process for us, because that's part of that concept for us, is that every one of our integrators does get that guaranteed meeting with each of our home buyers.
Yeah, so you're basically giving some of what differentiates from one company to the other. You just hit on a number of them, but one of them was service, right? They have to be able to take care of not only you, but especially the customer, right?
Absolutely.
So are you guys doing surveys on your subcontractors?
We do 3 surveys a year. We do a immediate at closing, we'll do a survey with our homeowners. We do a 6-month follow-up, and we do an 11-month follow-up survey. So yes, that's definitely a key component for it for a successful partner, is that you have to be taking care of our homeowners much in the same way that we would.
Great.
And want it to be done.
And you pay top dollar for everything?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Just checking.
16 billion in revenue, just buckets of money.
I want to move over to Jeff. Access control. We all know what your business is, right, and what you're focused on. What part of the market do you really focus on from an access control? Because access control can cover a lot of different parts of the market, right? But what do you are best known for, and what do you go after? What's your sweet spot?
Well, what's interesting is in the past we were really known for our wireless product. That was really our first product to the industry. And so people looked at us as a kind of a solution to a problem. Hey, I can't get to this door, I can't get to that gate. And we had a network product, but if somebody looked at our network product, they looked at it and they're like, oh, me too, right? And so we were really used as a solution to a problem. But now we're really known for the mobile app. You ask any one of the dealers, any one of the end users that have used it and assigned that usability out, that's what's really changed our business and really helped us grow. And I'll maybe open up the cards a little bit to talk about some of the technology and the trajectory where we're going. And that's all. It really all ties back to the mobile piece again. It's this whole concept of Bluetooth. And from my perspective, anybody that's installed Bluetooth, it feels like the Bluetooth was installed, the users used it, and then it wasn't as glamorous of an experience as they anticipated it to be. So our movement is all about this mobile, not just mobile first from a management perspective, but also mobile first from an end user perspective as well. So when an end user approaches a door, they have a very, again, immersive experience. And then you can take that all the way to a biometric level, right? A lot of us wear, an Apple Watch. And when you put the watch on, you don't have any functionality until you either unlock your phone or you unlock the watch, and that's a biometric piece. When I use my phone, I pull it up and I use biometric. So now the question comes, okay, I need two-factor authentication at this door. What can I do? Well, do I have to authenticate again at the door? No, we already know who you are. We already know what your intent is to approach the door, and we've already got you biometrically identified to come into the door. So again, this whole mobile first, regardless of how many layers of security you need to get in a door, that's our movement right now.
Yeah, so I want to expand that a little bit with Mike. It seems like access control obviously is very popular. It's becoming more popular. But it seems like it needs to be married with another technology like video. Do you see that coming down the road?
Yeah, it's already here.
It's already here, and do you think it's married well right now, or do we need to work on it a little bit? And I'll get your answer after that.
Video has become so dominant in most every one of the businesses that, whether it's access or security. Obviously, I think that there's always going to be a need to enhance and improve it. But I think it's, I don't think it's, well, let's put it this way. I think we've got some pretty strong video-based systems out there today. And I think that we are only going to enhance those systems in the future.
Okay. Jeff.
Well, I think Mike hit it on the head. From an analytics perspective, we see a lot of analytics coming into the industry, not just from the video side, but access control, the way I use my alarm system and those types of things. So how can you merge more of that analytics piece together so that if an event happens, I get the information that I want? And so that's something that we're actively working on, is identifying what that means. What does it mean when a door is open and it's propped? I don't know. And that's really identified by the user, and we need to just make sure that whatever's identified by the user is available from an analytics perspective, certainly when it comes to an integration from video to access control.
Yeah.
Can I add
Yeah,
something
please,
too?
yes.
So what we've seen as actually one of the bigger wow points in the sales of our homes with the packages has been the Bluetooth touchless disarming through the Qualsis panel that we have. So it serves as that trigger mechanism for other automations, right? And once it recognizes the phone and opens the door, turns the lights on, sets the AC, whatever that may be, if they already don't have the AC set by geofencing, of course. But just that simple type of a mechanism there kind of transforms, though, that panel in the home from being just a keypad that's attached to the wall to being more of another hub, another portal for it. Because I can tell you my wife's love with it, because I've obviously had guinea pig and use our own products there, and just that aspect of not having to come home, drop groceries, drop the kids, whatever that may be, and just have it happen for her. She's been a big fan of that one. And we hear the same thing from all of our homeowners, and our sales agents definitely use that as we're creating that memory point of walking into a home for the first time with our own models, is to demo it, to show, see, hey, okay, the door's locked or whatnot, and as we walk up to it, now it unlocks, the light comes on, all of that. It's a pretty effective sales tool for us.
So let me continue with that. You're talking about the house, but you're building communities. Are you using access control and video in the community to?
Yes, typically during our construction phase, of course, but that's but not tied in yet with our automation side of things. We should, but we do use construction cameras, of course, at all access points into the neighborhood, standard type things.
Yeah. Do you see where it's going to safe for communities? Do you see that coming?
Absolutely. I think I give Ring credit for what they did with their neighborhoods program or whatnot. That's a good application, good software, and that type of transference between different households or whatnot is good. We haven't approached that yet, but we should.
And I do agree with Jeff here. Even in things like telephone entry systems, you're going to see analytics and you're going to see cameras, and it's just going to give you multiple ways to validate and verify that that person is a person that you want in your home or in your community.
I don't know if anybody wants to take this one. We all know that Vivint is really going after the apartment communities, and they want to really start offering security services to that underserved community. Have you guys thought of that, or how are you approaching that market?
Yeah, earlier I referred to these buildings, like there's a building in downtown San Diego, or some in actually in Texas, where we essentially every unit has a GC2 in it, and those panels not only provide security there, but they tie into the basic fabric of the building, so that you then have the ability to have access control at the door, and then that carries through right into the individual apartment.
Yeah, and have you seen any of that from your perspective? You're not playing in that arena
No, that's
yet?
a huge movement for
you,
us.
okay.
And we're under an NDA with a couple, but one that I can speak
tell
of
us who it is.
is Duello.
Okay.
If any of you guys have heard of Duello, they're really moving fast in the multi-tenant residential. And what they're trying to do is, again, give you this immersive experience in your apartment complex that you could have if you own a home. And so for us, we said, okay, well, you obviously need an access control portion to this when you get to the clubhouse or whatever it may be. So what they've done is we've done a seamless integration to their platform that allows them to use the end user can use the Duello app, unlock their door, set their thermostat, and these types of things, go to the clubhouse, and they're utilizing our platform, but they're utilizing our API to do all the adds, changes, and deletes. We're seeing that from the assignment software as well from an apartment perspective. So now when I put a new tenant in, that goes directly into our system. The tenant not only has access to the Duello software, but now they have access to the environment in the clubhouse as well.
Right.
And that flows to the commercial side as well, right? When you start looking at integration into the HR platform, how can I get the least amount of touches as possible to give this individual the best experience that they want?
So let me shift to Amazon, Google's, all those folks. You like that subject matter, don't you? Isn't Amazon going into building homes soon?
No.
Okay, did you see that look on his face? It's like, no.
My stock options say no.
Right, yeah. Anyway, I want to throw this out at Mike. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but how do you think the integrators, dealers, your customers that buy from you every day, what do they need to do to be able to compete against these folks, in your humble opinion?
In my judgment, it's resetting what the value is in the home. And at the end of the day, the reason that you use a professional installed security system is you are relying on someone else to help protect your home. And that's the mission of that business, to do that. And if you think about what the mission of Amazon is, it has nothing to do with that. And their intent is not necessarily to ensure that your home and your assets are protected. And I think that if we can collectively increase the value that we offer, and that value would be reflected in, I don't want to get 1,000 messages every day that a leaf blew across my camera and it was an event. I don't want to have to worry about all of these false alarms. And we need to figure out how to use technology in the cloud as well as on the edge to make that experience much better. We have a lot of people who just buy the security system and turn it off because it's just so painful at times to deal with either the missteps in the home or the beeps or whatever it is. And part of it is, you know, you talked about the Bluetooth. If we can just make these systems be on all the time and not have to think about
Whether it's
turning
on
them,
or off, right, yeah.
whether it's on or off.
Yeah.
That's the point at which I think we can separate ourselves from the folks that, quite frankly, are shifting or in many cases shifting like a lot of that responsibility away from the professional monitoring center back onto the individual who owns the home.
Yeah, Al, I was talking to somebody here, and they said that they don't arm their system at night because they're afraid their little dog is going to set it off. They said that's when you need it a lot of times during the night. And I think you touched on something that's very important. It's our industry, we're supposed to have people's backs. We're supposed to inspire confidence and deliver safety and security. And I think that if we focus on that, all our companies, I think you're more protected. I don't know if you have any thoughts on
Well,
how
certainly
to
from
compete and differentiate yourself.
from a commercial perspective, you know, we've seen this movement from a security director to more of the IT director, right? And sometimes those conversations can be a little bit more difficult to have. I sit at the table, I haven't really been ingrained in the IT arena, and so I sit there and have this conversation. They're like, well, how secure is it? Now I've got to start to have those conversations because it's in the cloud, right? Well, how is it connecting? What ports do I need open? What's the configuration look like? Those types of things. So we see that is a change. And so I think for each of us is just understanding what's the competitive advantage of the platform that you're utilizing, and what's the connectivity look like, and I think that we have to be prepared to have those types of conversations. And as far as PDK is concerned, we've got documentation that helps support that for the dealer, and that's made it a little bit easier. But you know, that becomes a little bit more difficult because it's not the traditional guy that we used to talk to before.
Right. In a commercial setting, I was asked to go sit in on a meeting for access control and security cameras for a hospital. And all these companies were coming in parading that, you know, I can do this, I got this. And then after they were all said and done, the security director and the IT director got together and says, we got this, we can do this. We don't need them. I went, uh-oh, we don't want to hear that. Yeah. I don't know if they ever ended up doing it, but it was an interesting comment.
But what I love, if I can,
Sure.
is that the IT directors, they get it. You
Yeah.
know, they want the IoT, right? They've already got IoT when it comes to their phone. It's sitting on the desks. I know at our office we've got many phones, and you take it, you plug it in, and it works. Somebody needs to work from home for a couple of days, they take their phone, they plug it in, or they forward it to their cell phone, and it works. So the IT directors get it, and we've run into several experiences where I've had a dealer come to me and say, you know what, I can't sell this to these guys. Oh, well, hey, let's get a meeting put together with our IT director, and let's just have a conversation. So they usually come into a room with us, and at the end, you know, a dealer's, oh wow, that's really impressive that the IT director gets it from an IoT perspective, and they're excited about this cloud offering. So really, like I was mentioning before, we're finding that the end users are the ones pushing it, and sometimes as integrators, we're the ones maybe having to adopt a little bit more. We've seen that movement both sides of the fence.
So before we go to the audience, I have one other subject I want to touch on. It's monitoring, right? It seems to be changing in the world of monitoring, and I'd like to get Mike, I think you touched on it again, but I'd like to get you more of a perspective of where you think monitoring is going, especially the way I'm thinking about it as I think in the future when you get involved with natural language and you get involved with AI and you get involved with machine learning and deep learning. It's going to be very interesting to see how we take that information and send it over to the police. And I'm not sure we're always going to have operators or us to be involved with that. That's obviously way out in the future, but I see it coming. I don't know if you have any thought on where you see monitoring going and what it's going to mean for the industry.
Well, the first thing I think is that monitoring is certainly going to be an important part of the future. And maybe more important than we actually think, because at the end of the day, we're all pretty damn busy, and we need help. And we need help protecting our assets. in our homes. And I just think if we can raise the value of the entire experience, not just the monitoring experience, then we can set ourselves apart from those folks that, quite frankly, are in the game for reasons other than, in my view, protecting the assets and the home. So at the end of the day, I think it's an entire value chain. It's the equipment, it's the software platform, it's the monitoring, it's the whole experience that has to be tightened up to be able to offer that incremental value.
Okay. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
From our side of it, before we did anything on the automation side, we from our own internal numbers could see that about 40% of our buyers or so still bought automation, still got automation of some kind. Security is obviously very important to a large percentage of our buyers. For us, it's gotten a lot better once you attach it to that automation piece to it to make it the overall experience. As Mike was alluding to, it's not just about monitored security. Now you have the home automation meeting and this fun, cool stuff that we're getting to learn about. And at that same meeting, if you'd like monitored security and you use all the different bells and whistles of the security side of this proposal here, we can do that for you as well. And it's just seen as like an ancillary benefit, not just the sole meeting purpose of that meeting is just to sell me security. So,
you know, I sat in a alarm association meeting in Utah a couple of months ago, and while I was sitting there, one of the dealers had made a comment. You know, what I'm finding is that they're utilizing the access control and they're sending alerts. And so they're not monitoring the doors with the security in some of these cases on the systems he was installing. They're utilizing the access control to notify. And I assured him that we're not pushing that, but I thought it was interesting that, again, the smarter that these platforms become, having these email and text alerts and instant notifications, you know, somebody like each one of us might say, oh, well, hey, if I receive a text or an email or something like that, maybe that's good enough. And I don't think that that's the case every time. So what we're trying to look at is how do you create a better union between like an access control product and a monitoring service so that you get the benefits of both. And the dealer doesn't have to have that worry of, hey, I'm losing some of this opportunity here. I can still take advantage of the opportunity, and I get the benefit of the end user receiving an instant alert, but it can also be a monitored platform as well. So that's our hope, is that's the direction, and that's what we're trying to push for.
Yeah, I think in the future, when you think of all the connected devices that are out there and monitoring, if the security system goes off, maybe we shouldn't be dispatching right away on that. Maybe we should think about what it really means. Are there other sensors, connected devices that shows that somebody's in that house? Is the cell phone the owner of that cell phone in that house? Are there video there that identify that it's Kirk McDowell in that house? It's going to be very interesting to see where we go and how we progress as an industry. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open it up to the audience. So Merlin has a question. Go ahead, Kirk. Yes, sir.
For all of you, as you launch new products, MPIs, and look at building new homes, like what do people like? How do you collect your feedback? Do you have like home advisory committees? Do you use like parks data? Do you guys have dealer advisory councils? Do you ping? The reason I'm asking is because I've seen people launch stuff that's been a flop, right? And we've seen other people launch things that have been absolutely terrific, like Ring. So what do you do? I'm just to all y'all. What do you do?
We started in one of our last dealer summits that we have, and we have this each week, every year. Not weekly, that'd be a lot. But we've got these dealer summits that we do, and we fly dealers in and take advantage of some of the local dealers that install a lot of our stuff. And we put together roundtables, and we'll typically have 3 or 4 roundtable sessions hosted by our marketing division as well as our technology division to really identify what the dealer perspective is. One of these was we used to provide support to end users. So an end user would call and say, hey, I need to add somebody to the system. We thought, oh, okay, well, that's really nice of us. Maybe we got to just, help them add the person. And it was almost unanimous from every one of these dealers. They said, no, don't do that. We want them pointed back at us. We want to have that touch every time, regardless of how simple it is. So now what we've really tried to do is create a warm handoff to the dealer. So hey, I need to figure out how to add somebody to the system. Great, who's your dealer? Oh, this is who it is, or we identify who it is. We'll make a warm phone call. Hey, so-and-so, this is so-and-so customer. They want to know how to add somebody. Let's walk them through that process, and we warm hand that off. So we try to get a contact. But that's what we've tried to do, certainly from a technology perspective, and that's what we're seeing on the Bluetooth. And then some of that is just incoming, just the amount of phone calls we get from, oh, hey, we need this mobile, we need this mobile, we need Bluetooth. So we take some of that data as well and try to create a trajectory based on that.
For home building, I'd say, I'll just tell the story of how we came up with our package and how we got to that part there, because we do not use a lot of consultancy groups or things like that. A lot of ours is attributed to our autonomy divisionally and as widespread as we are. So we have a lot of points of direct data from our clientele, but when we built this program, it's not something that really did happen overnight. It's 2 or 3 years in the works with guinea pig and a lot of the products individually. There's a lot of stuff out there that doesn't do what it's supposed to do. No surprise there. But even within those individually siloed products, or we would have New Jersey has been using this panel already, whereas SoCal has been using this thermostat for a long time, those particular examples, to pull from them and say, what's the functionality of it? And then you have to take it and make sure they do the right things together, which is actually the tougher part. Whenever we would understand these 10 devices do what we're looking for there, these 12 devices do for this particular task, it was then, okay, how do we make sure that they all do what they're supposed to do together? We put it in my house, which my wife hates, for any more devices. If anybody in here has a product you want to give me to guinea pig, it ain't happening. I'm on moratorium for that. True story. But we did actually build a lab in our office. We call it a lab. So we could actually put all these things in a real world setting, make sure that they do what they're supposed to do together. And we, of course, tested it in a couple of select neighborhoods and select divisions and had them go through some real paces with it. But the key for us, where we got most of the real constructive feedback, was actually from our dealers. We involved a couple of select ones, the CPI, Home Pros of the world, the bigger guys that live in that space, and had them be part of that discussion with us. So that it wasn't just looking at it from our perspective, and I think that's sometimes what we don't do enough of, is involve that labor component in our world specifically.
Well, we do dealer council meetings, and we essentially go into different markets and spend a couple days, invite dealers. Dealers across the spectrum of the products that we have. We also do use data from parks and from other sources. What I think we found is many times the rate of speed at which things are moving is so fast that and it takes longer than people expect to actually build and develop products, even if they're iterative, that we have to be careful that we listen to directly to the market and not take into account where things could migrate to. Many of our dealers expect us to know what the future is. We'd like to do that in concert with them, because all the products we sell go to an integrator or go to a dealer. We don't sell directly to the end consumer. So I think it's got to be a balance of things that we get from our dealers through the councils and through other things that we do, as well as laying over that a perspective, which is how could this evolve long term. So doing some scenarios about how would this system evolve, so that we can ensure that we're not so short-term focused that we miss things that we need in the future.
I think one of those things, before we go to the next question, is how difficult is it for your customer to be a customer of yours? Think about that. A lot of times we don't realize how many roadblocks we put up. So it's something that whether they're doing it or whether we're doing it out in the audience, it's something to consider. Another question? Yes, sir. That was a tentative one. Right.
Mike, you've emphasized a couple of times adding value and the importance of that. The company's largest bet is being able to add value. You were about 5G, not.
Pardon?
regarding 5G, which eventually would help your company do that, can you please explain a little bit more about your thoughts about 5G and how fast or not so fast it's going to affect the market?
I think we all get enamored by technology, and technology has a cost, and we need to be mindful of trading off the cost versus the value we're really creating. And you know, in this marketplace where price has become so much more important for all of us, we really have to know that we're going to get value out of that technology we embed in our product. And we shouldn't do it just because it's possible. We should do it because it actually adds value, and the trade-off in terms of cost for that is beneficial. Quite frankly, people don't even really know what 5G is. So we're chasing this thing out there that's been described as being X, Y, and Z, and until that gets proven out, I think we need to be careful about how aggressively we pursue it, and particularly in the conversations we've had with not only people like Qualcomm but Verizon and AT&T. They are concerned about those trade-offs, and they've provided us with some, quite frankly, pretty candid conversations about where those benefits are and where they could be beneficial in our products. And we're having to look at those trade-offs. And that's why I'm sure, in my judgment, it's a little premature for us all to go chasing 5G right now. We're just getting into 4G, and they've all advised us there's a pretty long horizon at which that'll satisfy our needs.
Great, thank you. Yes.
So for Adam, 57,000 homes, how many of those?
58.
58,000, sorry.
Don't cheat me.
How many of those are taking professional monitoring? How many?
That's a great question. So, and I don't want to dangle a carrot out there because we've got 3 months or so of actual closing data, because this has been about a 6-month process. We have about a 90-day build time, so we got about 3 months or so. We were about 40% or so before, and that's kind of the Alarm.com side of it too, that, you know, they really expect you as a dealer to get that kind of a percentage. We've actually got 75, 80% so far. It's a lot just because we have that captive audience, right? We don't allow door knockers. They can't take over the system for it. So you do have that committed clientele. And if we have a dealer, truthfully, that's only getting 30% or so, we'd want to talk with them too and find out why they're not getting a higher absorption rate. But what we've seen so far, again, early on, still only a quarter or so worth of actual closings to pull from. It's actually 75 to 80% adoption.
Yeah,
it's very good.
Yes, sir. Way in the back. Run.
So from the resi perspective, you know, we've seen a big, huge adoption in video, right? Video is huge. And when we take a look at like the search analytics, there's a lot more demand from the end user, from the subscriber for video versus just a traditional system. So I think, George, I believe you mentioned this, but like Alarm.com, first of all, recently announced that they're introducing analytics. I have not researched a lot about it. So I guess the question is, how long do we think it's going to be, whether it's 2019, 2020, to where there's more of a wider adoption, or analytics is going to be more of a standard to help with, and I think, Mike, you brought this up, the 200 notifications that numb me to not checking in, right? So how quickly do we think that's going to take in order to be more mainstream, more standard?
My view is it's going to come pretty quickly. I think certainly from the perspective of someone like Alarm.com trying to add more value to their offering. Manufacturers, I mean, I sat through Residio's presentation yesterday. They're talking about having facial recognition in their panel, the same thing that we'll be offering. So I think once it gets started, it's going to accelerate pretty quickly. I think the bigger challenge is going to be how we convert traditional sensors and, quite frankly, change the very nature of those sensors so that they're more reliant on analytics. I remember we were looking at one point at acquiring the Siemens business that Joe Grillo acquired in Europe. And I remember sitting with the guy who was running it, and we were talking about change in the security business, and he said, you know, Mike, these dealers would rather get divorced from their wife than from their product. So at the end of the day, the notion is that some of those things where we literally have to change the very nature of the hardware are going to take a lot longer to be adopted. But if we can add that value to something that's already there, like a thermostat or a panel, I think that's going to come very, very quickly.
Another question? Well, oh, there. Okay, go on. Mic him up.
Thank you. We got 5 minutes left, right?
Uh-oh.
How long of a
Are you
question?
telling everybody to buckle up here?
I actually was more curious for Adam of the 58,000 homes that you've built in the with the advent of the baby boomers starting to retire. What do you see a change in percentage of homes you're building that are for the senior living communities versus traditional?
Yeah, that's why we launched Freedom, which is kind of geared towards that specific clientele. And what we actually found, though, was that when we launched our Express brand, which is definitely geared towards the millennials and is a much more streamlined process, it's driven off of packages. There's not a 4-hour design center experience or anything like that. And it's been wildly successful because that's a very underserved percentage of the population in terms of actual affordable housing. We had a lot of empty nesters, downsizers buying our Express homes because they did just want the simplicity side to it, and that's kind of what stemmed and then spurred DR to understand we need to create this specific brand because they wanted that same concept to where it was simple, they knew what finishes they already liked, they had a couple of choices, but it was really about affordability because they're leaving off that retirement and that fixed income side to it, but they did want a little bit nicer finish out or so. And that's really where Freedom Home came from us. And so it's just got launched within the past year, but it's already about 6% of our sales. Express is about almost 40% of our sales now, so still has room to go in that. But our goal for it within the next year is 15%. So it absolutely is going to become increasingly a more targeted demographic specifically.
That was it? I was
I
waiting
thought
for
I was-
that
yeah.
long.
It was like 30 seconds.
Right, that was great. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. So we're gonna go to the next slide, and we're talking about keep calm and evolve on. Our industry is still, I think it's 72%. We're still the preferred provider within the home, and obviously in commercial, fire, and business, we're it. But that's great news. But I think moving forward, we're not entitled to our customers anymore, especially when it comes to residential. So we have to work at it a little bit more. So a lot of these disruptors that are coming into the industry, they're evolving also. And that's what we have to be very cognizant of. So I think we as an industry have to make sure that we earn that customer each and every day. So this is what we're trying to do, right? Well, that was come on, a little more laugh there. Anyway, let's give them a big round of applause for doing a great job. Thanks very much, guys. Thank you. And happy holidays, right? We gotta put that one up there. There we go. Thank you, everybody. And I guess we're gonna see you all tonight to honor Mark Sepulveda. Thank you. Great job, guys. Thank you very much. Great job. Yes, LSU.